Mark Zuckerberg really thought that he could get rid of some of the bad press that Facebook had by rebranding it to Meta. Problem is, it's just been a giant dumpster fire ever since the rebranding. They set a record for the largest one-day value loss in US corporate history, losing $240 billion in market capitalization in a single day. Almost a 27% loss.
Emotional damage!
That was just for one single day, but since their rebrand in late October, Zuckerberg has lost more than $500 billion turning Facebook into Meta.
That's a lot of money!
And after losing so much value over the last few months, Meta is no longer one of the world's top 10 most valuable companies. Poor old Zuck. Just before the rebrand, Facebook had a whistleblower who testified before the Senate and exposed the company for its bad practices. Some of the information that the whistleblower exposed was that the company purposely targeted young children even though it knew its platform was harmful for them.
The Facebook internal studies that you found talks about how Instagram harms teenage girls. 13.5% of teen girls say Instagram makes thoughts of suicide worse.
Instagram latched onto that teenager's initial insecurities. It then push more content and recommendations. That's how Instagram's algorithms can push teens into darker and darker places. Facebook, as you have put it, Ms. Haugen, so powerfully maximizes profits and ignores pain.
Facebook said just last week it would postpone plans to create an Instagram for younger children.
Facebook also helped spread misinformation on climate change and COVID, and also there was claims that the platform allowed the organization of the January 6th riots on Capitol Hill. So obviously this rebrand was just an attempt to get rid of some of that bad press. As a matter of fact, Facebook's brand is so bad that they have to pay what is referred to as a brand tax in order to keep employees around and to hire new talent. Mark Zuckerberg also wants to refer to his employees as Metamates. That's right. Metamates.
You mean to tell me if you're in Facebook's headquarters, if you happen to be there at all, you're going to go up to a water cooler, a coffee cooler, and say, hey, what's up, Metamate? I think it just shows the clear disconnect between the management team over Meta and probably a lot of employees inside the company right now.
Why go through the trouble of trying to take care of all the issues that your company has? Just change its name and everything will just go away. But you know what he did do? Due to data processing laws in Europe, Meta threatened to remove Facebook and Instagram from the EU. Because without that sweet user data, Facebook felt like they didn't have any reason to stay around in Europe. It backfired on Meta, with the European leaders saying that life would be very good without Facebook and Instagram. And after they called Zuckerberg's bluff, Meta backed down and Facebook and Instagram are still available in Europe.
Where you going? Nowhere. That's right.
Also, did I mention that Meta's manager of community development just recently got busted trying to meet a 13-year-old boy in a hotel room?
Right there, you are telling a 13-year-old boy, I love naked cuddles on a cold evening with you pressed against me. He asks you what you do. I am the head of a global community development for Meta.
I don't know what the hell is going on at Meta, but things are just not looking good for this company overall. And while we're on the topic of community development at Meta, let's talk about the Metaverse. All of this comes at a time when Zuckerberg is really trying his hardest to try to get people involved in the Metaverse. The Metaverse being called the virtual world that will usher the next phase of the internet. Claiming that the Metaverse will be a place where friends can get together, learn, play, shop, etc. Every commercial I've seen for it just makes it seem like an extremely cringy concept to help people get out of our boring dystopia into his new and improved virtual dystopia. In fact, there was a recent commercial that just came out last week that included some very depressed animatronic robots who in their prime had it going on, but then were lost and forgotten and thrown in a dumpster. And although their lives were once great, now their lives suck. So they decide to jump in the metaverse together and relive the good old days in Mark Zuckerberg's new digital world. Just like you and I will, you know, because we're sad and depressed, and that's going to be our solution. Going into the metaverse and hanging out with our friends. It's the worst way to market your digital world, really. It really is. Since life in this world sucks, let's go into the metaverse. It's so much better there, inside Zuckerberg's new great world that he created. Just make sure you're packing virtual pepper spray so that you avoid getting groped by incels and neckbeards while you're in the metaverse. Doesn't the metaverse just sound like the plot of some crazy sci-fi movie where some mega billionaire creates his own digital world and tries to get everybody in there to start living a new new life in a new world, all created by himself so he can make as much money as possible and harvest whatever the hell he's trying to harvest off of his users, whether it be data or organs. Who knows? Zuckerberg himself looks like an android, and I wouldn't be surprised if he actually is a robot.
Boz, that you?
Of course it's me. You know I had to be the robot, man.
I thought I was supposed to be the robot.
I remember one of the first Metaverse commercials that I saw where he was talking about his workrooms, where he was trying to get people who are working remotely to log into the Metaverse and have their meetings and work in the Metaverse.
Imagine if you could be at the office without the commute. You would still have that sense of presence, shared physical space, those chance interactions that make your day all accessible from anywhere.
That sounded like the worst possible idea ever. As someone who works from home in tech, I would fucking die if I had to wear a headset and go and talk to virtual Mark Zuckerberg on a daily basis. It's bad enough when my boss forces me to turn on my camera when I'm in a Teams call. The last thing I want to have to do is show up to work as an avatar in the Metaverse and deal with my boss and water cooler talk in a digital world. Give me some virtual bullets so I can blow my virtual brains out if that ever has to happen to me. Seems like an out-of-touch billionaire who thinks he's got the next great idea. And don't get me wrong, maybe there's some potential in the Metaverse. Maybe it might be the next best thing. I know that a lot of people that are backing crypto like the idea of the Metaverse. The fact that you can buy real estate in the Metaverse is just ridiculous. And the fact that some of that real estate is really, really expensive, it just blows my mind.
Do you own any digital real estate?
What?
It's real estate in the Metaverse. Like you own it. It's real estate. I don't understand. You're such a boomer.
Someone paid $450,000 to be Snoop Dogg's Metaverse neighbor.
In 20 years, you're not going to be able to go outside because of the climate. So you're going to spend most of your time in a pod, and you're going to live online. Your NFTs are going to be your precious art, and you're going to live in the Metaverse in digital real estate.
So there's metaverses? There'll be Facebook Metaverse?
Oh, dude, for sure there's a ton of metaverses. You can't afford to be in certain metaverses you can.
Which one could I not afford to be in?
Not you specifically, but I'm talking about regular people like myself. I don't know that I can afford this metaverse. But I'm going to start in another metaverse and work hard.
If you got...
So maybe I'm just a boomer and I don't know what I'm talking about, but the Metaverse just sounds like the most cringe concept that has come up in a long time. In fact, the concept of the Metaverse isn't that new of an idea. And the former CEO of Evernote came out and said that Metaverse is an old idea that never worked. And who knows, it might not work this time around either. Maybe if Zuckerberg puts all his money into it, it might. But the fact that the company has lost half of its money in the last few months, it's probably not off to a good start if you ask me. I personally don't care what happens to Meta or Mark Zuckerberg. I just thought that this stuff was pretty interesting and kind of funny that it's just such a shit show over there right now, and Meta is just one giant dumpster fire. So I decided to make a video talking about all the stuff that I've recently seen on the news about Meta and Zuckerberg and the Metaverse. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, and I'll see you next time.